Hi, everyone. This is Mary Ann McKibben Dana. I am a Presbyterian pastor serving Trinity Presbyterian Church in Herndon, Virginia. And in addition to being a parish pastor, I am also a writer and a speaker and have written a few books, including my most recent one, which is called Hope, a User's Manual. I also work as a leadership and ministry coach. So I work with pastors and church councils and other entities that are working on strategic planning, work-life balance, anything people want to work on. So I have been doing that work for several years and bring all of those things together in the writing and the pastoring work that I do. When I was invited to write about love God, love neighbor, and love enemy, I was 2/3 excited about it and 1/3 daunted, because I think we grow up with an understanding of the Great Commandment to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and our neighbor as ourself. And while that is not an easy thing to do, it is something that is relatively straightforward for us to get our minds around. It's the love enemies part, which is a challenge for many of us. I think we get stuck on it in a couple of different ways. One is that it's just sometimes very difficult to admit that there are people that we would consider an enemy. We live in a very polarized culture, and I think there is a sense in which we want to be peacemakers. We want to be people who bring folks together. And to admit that there are people that we would put under the umbrella of enemy is something that's deeply uncomfortable for many of us. And yet it's language that Jesus used, and it is throughout the scripture. And so it is an idea, a concept that we need to contend with and think about. And the other reason it's challenging is because if we do admit that there are people that we feel opposed to, we really don't want to love them. And so this is a challenging practice for us. And I would say, though, that the inclusion of loving enemies really helps heighten and sharpen our focus on what it means to love God and love neighbor. Because I'm not sure we can truly love God with our whole heart and mind and strength if we don't also include love towards those for whom we find it hard to love. And so, as squirmy as I might have felt in including that and having that be a part of the practice that we're looking at over these next several weeks, it's essential. And I was grateful for the opportunity to dig into this practice for my own spiritual formation, and looking forward to what you all will discover as you share together in what it means to love God, love neighbor, and love your enemy. We're fortunate with this practice, as difficult and central as it is, that we have 6 aspects to play with instead of simply 4. And that's a good thing, because this is a big one for us. How do we love God and one another and those we find it hard to love? And when I was developing which 6 aspects of this practice I would focus on, I really looked straight at the scripture and looked through a number of scriptures that dealt with these topics, tried to find some that were a little off the beaten path, that don't talk about love specifically, but have an ethic of love within them. And so we will look at 6 dimensions of loving God, neighbor, and enemy. And they are not meant to be sequential. They're not meant to be a step-by-step, but different facets. Imagine looking at a diamond and the kind of prisms of light that come at those. That's really what I was thinking about as I was preparing this practice. And so we'll look at practices like loving extravagantly and serving the stranger, showing mercy, washing one another's feet, being courageous and living peaceably. And there's overlap among some of those. And yet I think that each of those, taken even individually, give us a little bit of a sliver of insight into what it means to fully embody and be people of love as Jesus commanded us to love.